trapped by the opinions of others, constantly worrying about what they might think. I didn't feel free to express myself. From the outside, I was free, but inside, I felt like I was in a cage. 25 years of this. Things needed to change. And then they did. In this video, I will share with you what I have learned during the past year in my journey of trying to not care what others think. The highs and the lows, and how all this has changed my life forever. 1 year ago, I came across this quote: "We don't regret the things that we did. We regret the things that we didn't do when we had the chance." And it really made me think. So the start of this journey wasn't like a one big conscious decision that, okay, now I will change my life forever. It was more like something that started to happen and develop little by little over time. How this journey started was basically me recognizing that I cannot control what other people think of me. Their opinion of me isn't a reflection of my worth. It's more a reflection of their own self-worth and how they view themselves and the world. So just because somebody would think that I'm stupid, entitled person here filming these videos and I'm not doing anything valuable for the society, it doesn't mean that that is true. It doesn't mean that I'm not worthy or worth of love or whatever. It's how they view the world, not who I really am. And it's very important to understand that. And this is very much related to the second thing that I learned or understood. We are all different. We have all different values, and it's very hard to change others. And that's not even necessarily a thing that you should do. Diversity is a beautiful thing, in my opinion. So if people want to change, they need to do it themselves, not that you need to change them. And last year I understood something very important, and that is I need to focus on my own emotional and spiritual state, because that is something that I actually can control. Doing what I want to do, feel what I want to feel, and not let like external sources to dictate how I should live my life and how I should feel today. And part of this is recognizing your triggers, what makes you feel angry or sad or peaceful. And then you spend more time doing the things that make you feel joyful and less what gives you that frustration. And also to set boundaries for those things that don't make you feel good. And a very practical thing to this is saying no. This is something that I have learned recently. I felt very ashamed of it or guilty of it, and still do a little bit, because I get these thoughts in my head that this is not what a good friend, for example, does. Or I'm better than this, I could do this thing, but I'm saying no to that. But then always when I find those thoughts in my head, I realize that also my own well-being is very important, and it shouldn't be less important than anybody else's well-being. And this is very important that you clearly communicate why you are saying no. So you don't just let the other people wonder why you are making that decision, why, for example, you don't want to go out with them, why you don't want to help them, why you don't want to do a certain thing. Because so many times people understand if you just explain to them clearly. This is not aligned with my values because of this, and that's why I'm saying no. Of course, you can always choose whether you want to explain that or not. You don't have to always explain yourself, but it just helps a lot with this. And also trying to find some sort of alternative solution if just possible. That's just being a good person, I guess. Shadow work. This is something very crucial when it comes to not caring about what others think. And how I did this was just trying to identify the thought patterns that go on in my head again and again. Kind of the obsessive stories that you have about yourself and about life, that are just trying to tell you what you can and what you cannot do, who you are and who you are not. I think it's important to have that self-identity and living aligned with your values. But if you have things like limiting beliefs in your mind, that you cannot do something because somebody else is telling you, it's good to kind of challenge these. So I think that that is where the shadow work term comes from, that you are actually spending time going to the deeper parts of your mind, something that isn't always so consciously visible, but it's more like a subconscious thing. And I learned so much while doing this. And one of the things was, for example, disturbing others' peace while filming outside. That is something that I shouldn't do. But then again, who am I disturbing here? It's just my own mind telling me that that is something that I'm doing, even though I wouldn't be. And one other was imperfections when I make these videos. I was telling to myself, there cannot be any mistakes when I film videos, especially when I'm communicating like in English. And I used to script every video when I started just because of this, and it was so time consuming, and if I made a mistake I would start all over again. And then at some point last year I was like, I'm too tired of doing that. Like, I stopped caring about it, and Nowadays, I don't anymore stop when I make mistakes. I don't even realize if I actually make mistakes. So it's kind of embracing these little failures and imperfections because nobody is perfect. Focusing on what could go right instead of what could go wrong. This was a huge mindset shift, and especially visualizing stuff in my own head, like how things will be going if I don't know about something. So this has taken off the worry from my mind a lot. And being inspired by this, I actually started doing something super hard, that was taking language lesson in another language where I have to only speak that language. After that lesson, I immediately filmed one bit because I realized something super important. If you want to make something a little bit easier, do something that is even harder than that and not even caring if you succeed, and then go back. It will be much easier, the thing that you wanted to do in the first place. I just had an Italian lesson of 45 minutes. That is a language that I'm learning and I'm still somewhat struggling with it, and I have to speak only Italian for 45 minutes. And then I come to do these videos. This feels so easy to express myself. And the same thing has been for me in climbing or bouldering. Every time I'm trying to reach for like a hold, I feel it so far away and I need to make a little push, little jump. I'm not aiming to reach to that. I'm aiming to reach just a little bit above that, and then somehow it becomes so much easier to actually get to that. If you are already doing something or thinking to do something that is harder that you initially wanted to do, the chance of you making it or reaching that thing that you wanted becomes so much greater. When you aim higher, you will also reach much higher, like over your own expectations. So after 1 year, where am I now? Well, in the micro level, so like daily small conversations and whatnot, I still care about what others think of me, of course, especially my loved ones. But in the macro, I don't. I don't really care about what people think of my life choices, my videos that I post online, how I want my future to look like, what they think of my values, me as a person, whatever. I think it's pretty impossible to stop completely caring about what other people think of you, because the subconscious mind is just so powerful. But with mindfulness and this shadow work, you can start to realize those patterns, and when they come, you can interfere before you take any action. For example, change career because somebody told you that that isn't suitable for you. And then you can make those decisions yourself. Now I feel much more free. My self-confidence is much higher. I feel like I know much better who I really am. I realize this is a huge part of creating your own dream life. Like, you can do so many things externally, but still having that internal state kind of together is so important. Related to this topic, I have a specific survival guide here if you want some practical tips. Remember to stay kind and meaningful in your own beautiful journey. Seve signing out. See you in the next one.